Hello, I'm Brian O'Neill with Industrial Power Truck and Equipment. We're a commercial truck dealership based in Fort Worth, Texas, and we've been selling, servicing, and supporting the Isuzu truck product line for the past 25 years. These trucks look great, they're super reliable, and you'll get years of trouble-free service if they're properly maintained. Today, I'm going to give an example and a demonstration of what we call the daily pre-flight. It's the pre-flight or walk-around we encourage you or your drivers to do before taking the truck out on the road each day. It takes less than 5 minutes and it saves money, it improves safety, it improves efficiency, it minimizes your truck's downtime, and it helps protect the investment that you've made in your truck. This particular truck is a 2012 Isuzu NPR with the diesel engine. And the pre-flight that I'm going to do today will work for the 2011 and the 2012 year models. Let's get started. The first thing I do when I approach the truck is that I check the engine oil level. With the push of a button, it illuminates a green light letting you know that the oil quantity is good. If that light happened to be red, it would indicate that there's a problem. We'd actually tilt the cab forward, check the oil on the dipstick, and try to understand what's going on. Today our oil is good, so we'll start the truck. The first thing I do when I get in the truck is I make sure that the transmission is in park and that the parking brake is set. Then I'm going to turn the key. The key has a couple of notches. We're going to turn it one click and nothing happens. And then we're going to turn it a second click. The MID lights up and the glow plug light extinguishes in approximately 2 seconds or less. Now we're ready to start the truck. After you start the truck, I keep my eyes on the MID, the multi-information display panel in the truck, and I make sure that there's no caution or warning lights. The only light that should be illuminated is the red brake light, indicating that the parking brake is set. And now we're good to go. I turn the lights on, ensure that they're on bright, turn the hazards on so that we'll be able to check the lights, and then I do an operational check of the windshield wipers to make sure that the motor's working good and that the wipers look good. And then we're ready to start the walk around. Before I leave the cab, I check 2 items. First item that we check is the brake fluid. You're able to get a good look at the reservoir. It's got a clear container, and we make sure that the fluid is up to the, which it is. That one's fully topped off. The second thing that we check is behind the driver's side seat is the fire extinguisher. We make sure that it's in place and that it's properly serviced and in the green. And now we're ready to start the walk around. As I do the walk around, I divide the truck up into sections and I use a top-down flow as my technique. Taking a look at the driver's side door, the marker beacon is illuminated, the mirror is properly positioned, the turn signal and the flashers are working correctly, the mud flap is in place, and then one of the most important parts of the morning pre-flight or the daily pre-flight is to check the tire condition. We make sure and give it a good look on the front and the back that there's no nails, bolts stuck in the tread, that the sidewall is in good condition, that the tire is properly inflated, and that all the lug nuts are in place. Another important thing that you can look for on the front tires is to make sure that there's no unusual wear patterns. Now we'll take a walk out front. I like to step several feet in front of the truck so that I can get the big picture. And again, I use the top-down flow. I'm taking a look at the radius on the top of the box to make sure that it hasn't been damaged, and the same with the corner caps. It could have hit a branch on the road yesterday, and if there's a hole in it, then that's going to be leaking and that can damage the cargo. Check the marker lights on the box, check the marker lights on top of the cab, and then I actually approach the truck and take a good look at the windshield, make sure that there's no cracks, no damage on the windshield. I'm able to take a look right at the windshield wipers, make sure that they're in good shape. The turn signals and the flashers are working correctly, the headlights work, and then very important, the 2 is to take a look underneath the truck with the engine running and make sure that we're not leaking any fluids. And in this case, it's perfectly dry, no leaks, and that's what we would expect to see. Moving over to the passenger side, again, top-down flow. The marker light looks good. The mirror is appropriately positioned. The flasher and the turn signal is working. The mud flap is in place. And then we're going to take a good look at the tire. Making sure, again, no bolts, no nails, no unusual wear patterns. The sidewall is in good condition. All of the lug nuts are in place, properly inflated. So the tire looks good. Just like on the driver's side, there's a couple things that we're going to check inside the cab. The first is the washer fluid for the front windshield. We're going to make sure that that's properly filled, and again, it has a clear fill line so that you're able to see the level of the washer fluid. And then secondly, same as on the driver's side where we had the fire extinguisher, on the passenger side we've got our emergency roadside kit with the flares and the triangles, and we want to make sure that that's in place. Three more items that we want to check before we move and step away from the cab is the coolant level. Again, another clear container so that we can see that the coolant is appropriately filled, and this one's filled right to the fill line. We also have a clear container that houses the power steering fluid, and we want to make sure that that is appropriately full as well. And then there's the last item we want to check is that the air filter cover is indeed in place. For those of you that have had older model Isuzu NPRs, there used to be a viewfinder to show a restriction in airflow. That's been removed, and like many of the things, it's going to show up on your MID, and it'll give you a warning while you're sitting right in the cab, which is great. This particular truck has a 14-foot box. Obviously, you would modify your pre-flight accordingly for flatbeds, stake beds, or any other application, and just make sure that the body of the truck is in good shape for hitting the road for that given day. Top-down flow, marker lights look good. I like to check, see if there's any undocumented damage on the side of the box or any panel damage. I also want to ensure that this cover is in place and undamaged. This covers the emissions equipment for this truck. This is very hot, so don't touch it, but you do want to take a look at it and make sure that it is in place, secure, and undamaged. Just like the front tires, we're going to give a good inspection on the duals in the back, making sure that there's no nails, no bolts in the tread. Sidewalls are in good condition. All of the lug nuts are in place, and we want to make sure that the rear mud flap is also securely attached before we go down the road. These tires do require moving around. You can move the mud flap, make sure that you're getting a good look at the rear tires. Now moving to the back of the truck. Again, I like to step a little bit away, take in the big picture. At the top, that the marker beacon, that the marker lights are working correctly. And then there's not too much to check on this particular unit. We can come on down to the lights, and we're able to see that the running lights work and that the flashers work. The two lights that you can't check with this walk around if you're doing it with just one individual are the brake lights and the reverse lights. But if you're driving as a team, you can have your team member check those, or if the truck is backed up to where you can pick up the reflection in the windows of a building, you'd be able to check it that way as well. No matter what type of application you've got on the back of the truck, you want to make sure that it's operational for the day before you get out on the road. This one has a rail lift. What I'm looking for here, if the truck is sat overnight, the hydraulic pump for this is up in this area, and I make sure that there's no leaks. In this case, it's dry. But if we were starting to get a seep or a leak, that's something that we would want to address the next time the truck was in for service. We'll go ahead and lower this, make sure that it's working correctly. And then we'll inspect the back door. We want to make sure that the roll-up door is working good, and if you travel with the back door locked, obviously this is a great time to check and make sure you've got the key and you don't find that it's back of the office where you're at your first stop. We'll check the operation of the back door. The dome light is working. So it all looks good. We'll go ahead and secure this. This is up. I like to lower it down on the stop. That way we know that the stop is working correctly. It also takes the hydraulic pressure off of the pump and the weight off of the chains. So if you had a pull-out ramp or whatever the application is, you'd want to check it and make sure that it's working each morning. We'll work our way around to the driver's side. A few different items to check, lots of similarities but a couple differences. Starting again at the top, the marker lights are working. Checking the side panels, the side of the box, make sure there's no new damage that's undocumented. We're going to make sure that the fuel cap is in place. We'll again check and make sure that the rear mud flaps are on the truck and securely fastened and not torn. And then again, we're going to give a real good detailed look at the tires, making sure there's no nails, bolts, or any problems at all with the tires. Good inflation, good sidewalls, and all of the lug nuts are in place. As we move forward, there's two different items on this side of the truck. One is the battery cover. We want to make sure that the battery cover is in place and buckled down correctly. And then the DEF fluid, we want to check that it is, check the quantity. In this case, it's perfectly full, and it again has a clear tube and a viewfinder. Now on the DEF, there is also a gauge on the MID that is always on and is always showing you the quantity, but nothing beats the old school viewfinder, so I always like to take a look at that. The last thing before we enter the cab is to make sure that the truck is, the cab is secured properly. If you were to find a handle like this, there's still a safety latch keeping the cab down, but it wouldn't be properly secured, and you want to see the handle in that position. And with the cab locked, we're ready to get back in. Once we get in the truck, I'm going to turn off the hazards. I'm going to turn off the lights, put the foot on the brake, and release the parking brake. And then we're going to pull the truck forward about 5 feet. What we're doing with this check are a couple of things. We're able to check that the back-up sensor works, so you were able to hear that alarm. When we put the transmission into drive, we're making sure there's no unusual sounds or vibrations. And then we pull the truck forward about 5 feet to just give an operational check of the brakes. And with that, we're able to turn the truck off. Parking brake set, transmission is in park. And that concludes our daily pre-flight. Again, it takes approximately 5 minutes, and the number one thing it's going to do is improve safety. It's going to save money, improve efficiency, minimize downtime, and help protect the investment that you've made in your truck. Any discrepancies that are found, they're normally found early, and you're able to handle them at a low price point and do it during your routine scheduled preventative maintenance. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch. I'm Brian O'Neill with Industrial Power Truck and Equipment. Give us a call if you have any questions or visit us online at iptruck.com. Thank you.